Alright, what's up, yins, guys? Time for another video. I'm gonna talk about something I saw on the TV news. Been on a TV news the past couple days, and it's actually happened in a place not too far from where I am. Matter of fact, it's not too far from, let's say, anyway, in that community. There was a time when I was in my 20s, I used to shop in that community, that neighborhood, and when I was less gray-haired and had long hair and less bald, pride in myself in having long hair and being stared at, or people turning up their nose or making faces at me because I have long hair and have money in my pocket. And I bought a lot of quality items in that community. And I worked in an industrial park, and I had a really good paying job at that time in Western PA, which made people that jealous who'd stare at you to have long hair. And I even lived across the street from a restaurant and whipping out money for tips and things like that. So that particular neighborhood, and I had to check on the area of this shop. Without rambling here, I checked on it because I didn't want to be mistaken and say in a video I almost thought the location was the same location of a shop that I formerly spent a lot of money in building. Yeah, there's a business that clearly is just not in business anymore, and you never know. Well, maybe in this Wiccan shop here, maybe something used to be there. Who knows? Maybe I did buy something. But anyway, I shopped in that town. I'm not going to ramble too much. I'm going to get to a point. I saw this on the news. Yeah. All right. Just a story. I'm going to not beat around the bush and tell you. Somebody in a Catholic high school, is it? Got in trouble a little bit, and they were asked to resign. Got fired. Anyway, they were involved in bringing a guest in there for career day or whatever the hell, and okay, so they picked this person. They own a shop. It's like a Wiccan shop. They sell crystals and different things like that. And it doesn't bother me. I'm not judging them. I have no hate for it at all. But, all right, so crystals, okay, they're just rocks. So what? That's the first thing I'm saying. And everybody should just forget about it and chill. No victim, no bad guy here, no victim, and just everybody forgive and forget about it, and then then everybody will have something good and even better coming to them. You know what I mean? All right, one message I will tell to both parties, the kids and teachers on the Catholic side and the Wiccan side, which I'll tell you of laws of nature that both sides should be following in a sense. And how I'm doing that is by telling you to not worship, or don't let anybody force or demand you to worship anything that defies the laws of nature. And I'm talking to both sides here. One particular party which somebody wants to identify as another gender and artificially altering and mutilating of themselves to do it, if that's what they want to do, then that's their life. But the minute they demand that you worship them and demand that they want to demand for you to take any piece of your personal life to coddle them, or go into your school and demand that you coddle them and do anything outside of my personal belief is obeying the law as a sense of to not murder, don't shoot, or don't murder them, don't beat them up and things like that. Don't commit aggravated assault, which is common sense, right? But anything beyond that, nobody has the right to come into your school and demand that you be educated their way on that. You know what I mean? And I'm talking to both sides, like the Catholic and the Wiccan side. Is the reason why I'm saying this is something that somebody wants to do gender-wise. They're defying and going against the laws of nature. which we weren't meant, nobody was meant to do that to themselves. We didn't have that when we first came to this earth. That alteration, well, anyway, there was a clip that I saw Ben Shapiro and what, Caitlyn Jenner, aka Bruce Jenner, Bruce Jenner or whatever, clip where he questioned, that alteration that a woman is a woman, a man is a man, and she got mad at him and said, "No more words, or you're going home in an ambulance." So that goes to show that anybody like this, whom you refuse to worship, that goes to show how violent and threatening they will get if you don't worship them. And this is stuff that, like a Nebuchadnezzar syndrome, and this is stuff that, it's almost like way back in some of them crazy Roman emperors did, Caligula. So they want people that, or demand that you and your kids worship a particular thing that goes against the laws of nature. That's kind of like Nero and Caligula. Really sick stuff. But they didn't have those transformations, surgical transformations back in the day. But what I'm getting at here is anybody who chooses to do that in this day and age, and they want to identify as something, hey, that's their life, but yet they're going against the laws of nature. They're not meant to alter or mutilate themselves like that. But if that's what they want to do, but nobody has the right to force you to go along with it, whether you're a Wiccan or a Catholic or a Christian or a non-religious believer, atheist, or whatever you else want to be. Nobody has the right to force that into your religious criteria or your educational criteria. So I put this in to make my case about the laws of nature, and that somebody's personal choice, fine, but beware of people who want to force you to worship an image like that as a hero. And if you refuse to worship them as a hero and they get angry with you, then obviously they're being motivated by not just hate that they accuse everybody else of, they're being motivated and driven by another force, so to speak. And they're revealing their true selves, you know what I mean? But I'd just say, just like any other kind of things, anyway, I'm not going to tell you my life story, but my grandmother was Catholic. Matter of fact, when I had my good paying job that I told you about in that particular neighborhood, there was a bookstore. I bought a lot of different kind of religious oriented books, and I actually pouted big time when Borders bookstore up in Pittsburgh there went out of business, because I used to shop there when everybody else was spending their money on booze and drugs after they when they got the paychecks, so and everything, I was buying books. So I read a lot of stuff, and I remember my grandmother's Catholic Bible, even though some people on the Christian side said it was wrong. Hey, the books like Judith, Sirach, Baruch, Maccabees, and all of those other books inside the Catholic Bible, I read those. I read the books of Enoch and things like that. I grew up dysfunctional household where my mother was Christian, but when my mother was small, even when she was married to my original father, and different things like that, they went to church, and she was in and out of church. But when I was a kid, I was exposed to Christianity, religion, Catholic on my grandmother's side, and there was some mostly black churches my mother went into where anyway, I grew up with, like, it even got older, saying a lot of different things people did religiously, jumping around different things, same things I used to make fun of some things, but I was into an aspect of it, and I had respect for an aspect of it. And along with that, I learned to be, I want to call it practical superstitious, not no devil worshiper, that I learned off of certain kinds of Christians that were mostly black and some that were even mostly white that believed in a lot of things anyway. Even though I called some of them crazy, some I believed in, okay, I call it being practical superstitious. And my beliefs do come from, I guess you could say, mixtures of some of the Catholicism and Christianity and certain symbols that since I was influenced by certain books, certain symbols you were allowed to use even in your house, that around the circles had the scriptures from the Psalms written around them, you know what I mean? But I also wanted to say in here too, I'm trying to say to people, I don't know if this was done for publicity or whatever, if it was unintended, but I'm going to keep on the subject, but I was going to say I was kind of laughing to myself, okay, the woman was forced to resign or lose her job. I want to say to her, don't have any resentful heart or anything spiteful heart. There's something else better for them. And I don't want the people in the Catholic school side resent anybody, or that side resent anybody, you know what I'm saying? But I do think it's good to actually avoid a lot of evil things which have nothing to do with the crystals. But I'm still saying that when she was being interviewed, I'm thinking that interview I'm seeing isn't necessary. Already I've seen Prince Meghan and now Prince, what's his name, without Meghan Markle promoting his book. But anyway, what does that have to do with it? I'm comparing that with that, and I'm seeing the woman who kind of lost her job and because she brought them in there or whatever. Well, the way I'm comparing is like, you know how on 60 Minutes the guy's saying a slow, serious speech, and when he's asking you the questions and okay, when this happened, how did it make... Like that slow, subtle voice, like, the exclusive victim interview. Create a victim and a bad guy. And I'm not even saying it to bash, her either, but I'm like, I believe her to a point where maybe she wasn't really thinking things out totally either. It wasn't talked out with all the parties really perfect. But I'm like, come on, somebody didn't know that the products that the Wiccan women in the store were selling, when they brought them in their first place, come on, like nobody knew. And it's like that, all innocent. I'm not saying it was malicious either, but a lot of people, it could look to a lot of other people. I'm not even committed to saying that a little publicity thing, you know what I mean? I would rather, like I said, even the Wiccan people on that side, forgive, don't do anything to go out of your way to arouse resentment, to look like a victim, nor the woman who got fired. I say everybody will have something better for them if they don't have like a resentful heart or whatever, because I say right away, because I'm practically superstitious and I see things that happen all over the place. Say you do make money off of somebody else's resentment, even if it's not intended, I'm saying don't encourage that negative energy, because there may be a handful of money will be made, and what will happen, if it's there, let it fizzle out. Don't encourage any resentment. No parties don't encourage any resentment, because what happens if anybody makes, say, a handful of money, that'll fizzle out, that'll achieve the opposite of prosperity later. There might be a period that has happened. I'm just trying to say, I'm trying to put this into words without really going on and on. Just saying don't do it, but I think somewhere along the lines here, I'm trying to show some people that if you had grandparents that were Catholic and were Christian and different people there too, there is something that you should not to do, putting aside the Wiccan and the crystals thing that's going on right in our news right now, that I want to talk about here and there too. That say you could be Christian and Catholic and have grandparents and certain things that Don't have to be crystals. I'm not even talking about crystals. Other kind of things that an element that can be brought in your house, whether you want to call it a spirit or not. That I'll spare you that. I don't want to tell you a bunch of stories, but there is some that I'm just saying that you can bring in negative energies unawares. I'm just stopping right there from telling too many things right there. But if anybody's paying attention to this video right where I'm saying now, I grew up and I'm doing things. I've been active in charities for years right now, and I'll tell you right now, I saw negative energies from the news. Anyway, the stuff I was involved religiously that I do requires me, and even in my own heart not being required, is having respect for people's stores. Say whether it's a Wiccan shop or any storefront in that particular community. Which I'm getting at is I'm trying to tell people to watch this. I'm telling you stuff that doesn't really have anything to do with judging this incident, if anybody gets anything out of this. Things that happen in 2020. Any party that's listened to this, whether they're Catholic or Wiccan or anything, if they condone protest culture that marches in streets, blocks traffic, smashes storefronts, right, in any form, any kids, right? I don't care if you're kids that support the Wiccan side or Catholic side. The minute, I can say that because there's people on all different kind of faiths and parties. Some of them treat me nice, and some of them that'll look at me and turn up their nose, and there might be people that'll look, in their heart, they'll look at me, right, and turn up their nose, but yet they'll hold it in because if they think I have a handful of money, right, maybe I might make a major purpose. But anyway, I'm saying the crystals, they're just rocks, okay? They're just pretty rocks. You can find them places. I say they're harmless, they're rocks, but I'm just saying that that was presented here. Somebody had to have known, that the whole scene wasn't going to work. I don't think anybody should be a bad guy nor a victim in this. But I'm getting back to what I'm saying here about negative energies. I don't got to have respect for anybody involved in either side. Say if I find out that you side with the protest culture because it's hip, if there's any individual, say in the Catholic school side, because of racial issues, or in the Wiccan side, or any side, I don't got to have respect for either way. And either side, listening to this, say if they stick up for protest culture that in 2020 has damaged stores. I don't care what store you have. I don't care if you're a Wiccan shop or if you're a Catholic shop, Christian bookstore. They all, as far as me, having respect for stores because I stand in front of them every holiday. And I have kind of what the things I do for my charity over there that has a kind of, what you want to call it, little magical thing for kids for the holidays, if you want to call it that. I have a kind of a name, say, for it that I wanted to create some kind of a little fun magical thing, you want to call it magical Christmas thing, but and what I wanted to get at too, because if you got this far, I wanted to say too, I was talking to a woman that I knew just today about this too. Any of you people are Catholic, Christian, or even Wiccan, if you want to say you're a witch, that you should pay attention to this too. Because when my book, I don't care if you're black or any color, right, or if you had somebody that died in some negligence or by a cop or something, say if you had a family member, I'm saying about that George Floyd, I'm not laughing that he died or anybody, but somebody, even though they did their time in prison, had met their end by a cop. Here's the thing, say, if you had, I don't care who you are, if you had somebody that died some kind of way, why by it was an overzealous cop, some kind of a way they should have took it, or any kind of thing which you didn't forgive for, and then a bunch of people protest, right? You should be very shrewd. Don't follow what you see on the news. Make it a big... Okay, that family member unlike it, don't do the mistake that people did in 2020 there. I'm very big on, say you had a family member died some kind of way. I don't care if you want to call it unjust by some cop or whatever. You should not, I repeat, do not allow or consent to anybody, because they want to get you a handful of money and publicity and justice, right? I call this a very voodoo-y thing. You got to be careful who you're giving your soul to or given over to, right? Anybody, have friends that were of color. I tell this because some that are Christian that even swear a little bit, like I usually do in some videos, right? Because I come from certain neighborhoods. I'm getting at, for the influences I had, some of them that were, in a ways, the Pentecostal, jumping around and falling down on the floor Christian. I've been around that as a kid. I learned to be practical, superstitious, and all that. And I know there's a kind of thing, if any of you know anything about this witchcraft, okay, what I'm getting at, why you should not allow, don't just allow just anybody to, don't consent to allowing just anybody to use the likeness of that family member any way they choose. You should not consent to that. Because like what I'm seeing, I'm not laughing any particular person died, but you notice a certain people on that they're raising their banners, with their faces on, like in 2020. Some of the likenesses looked like them, but there's a thing called they're using the image for like what I call a Nebuchadnezzar syndrome. Okay, the person was a victim and they died, and they want you all to bow to that image. That was going on. There was a bunch of that going on, say all over the internet, and that. I'm just using that. You get a family member, right, and they use that image, right? You might see some pictures over there that look like them, look pretty decent, glorious, but then say you see other images out there put up there too, and they look very bizarre looking. I mean, that happens too. But pretend, you have a family member that died, you feel was unjustly, whether or whatever. I say, do not. I'm very big on this because I had my influences in this and things that I read. You should not just consent. Don't give consent to the use of the likeness of that family member, the image of that family member that died. I suggest that there's some things that could be, that everybody should agree you should look that up. Even if you don't believe in anything paranormal per se or witchcraft per se, there is a real energy and a name, that a thing that you can argue, anyway, you can argue this social and political influence being fueled by either resentment, hate, anger, or demand for justice, can be like an energy, and you got certain people that are good and evil, both black and white, have, should we say, roots in their own way of a kind of witchcraft-like thing, whether you call it just a charismatic influence, if you will, or sociopathic influence to gather a whole bunch of people, and they use, it's the same way as crooked politicians use it, cult leaders that exploit every single type of religion do it, you know what I mean, of all over the world do it. Some people can argue that it's kind of a witchcraft, or some people just say it's very clever charisma or whatever, but whatever you want to call it, it's real. That influence that some people can get to get a bunch of people to do a lot of things and to use somebody's images, that is very real. Whether or not you believe that it that there's any kind of a real witchcraft power or devil power or whatever, but I think people need to be very careful who and what they're given themselves over to, or allowing people to use a likeness or an image, because of what people will do with that likeness and image. Turn it into something to brainwash a whole bunch of people for their own purposes. I think it's a very dangerous thing, and I think people should not give up their right to withdraw what I'm saying? The right to withdraw the consent of somebody or some group using the likeness of the dead family member. That right to withdraw that consent is a very much more important and crucial thing than anybody thinks, that I personally think nobody even thinks about. Like I said, because some Catholics have their, you want to call it the superstitions of believing in some kind of powers. Man, in fact, a lot of us believe too that the people, high-ranking leaders of all these religions too, even though you don't call them cults, the legit religions, they'll tell you, oh, don't use this particular power or influence, and do as I say, not as I do, and yet in the shadows they use it too, you know what I mean? I'm just going to leave it at that, but so the influences that I have and think, this is based on what I was taught as a kid, because like I said, when my mother went to churches, hey, I was taken as a kid to church, like I said, the churches that were mostly black, that were strongly believed in certain evil powers and influences. And my grandmother was Catholic. But I also believe the right to read and look into everything and question everything too. So, and then my beliefs are based on, charity and physical wellness, and I got some other things that I believe that are crucial too, but I don't want to make a video really too long. But I'm just trying to be fair with this too. I mean, like I said, if you're somebody that don't believe in any devils or angels or any powers whatsoever,